Let's go. We're going to move on and get the father of the internet online. Unbelievable. Does anybody understand what I'm saying? The father of the internet. This is a brilliant human being that we've been blessed to have here this morning. And I know a lot more about you, Vint Cerf, than you know about me, which is unbelievable, in fact. But no, I'm just saying your background is just so tremendous. Your work that you've done in the past, and certainly the work you're doing now, especially through the Marconi Society and all the things that you're doing, are so inspirational. So we want to give our audience, the people that are working with Silicon Harlem and supporting us and doing a lot of things, to have you just sort of address us, give us some ideas. What should we be thinking about this notion of advancing humanity as we look at the way the world is going, and sort of how you're looking at things moving forward?
Well, thanks so much, Clayton. What a pleasure to meet you face to face this way, although I had intended to come and be there physically. And as you know, that didn't work out because of COVID-19, but we'll get there eventually. So let me bring you greetings from the Marconi Society, which I chair, and from Google, which is proud to be among the sponsors of today's event. I could listen to the students all day. I just love the creativity and energy and enthusiasm that we got in just those two samples. I also wanted to tell you, after I got a chance to look at the program, I'm sitting here being very unhappy because my calendar is not going to let me stay longer than my time to chat. But my God, friends like Merlin Hayes and Prince Constantine and Craig Newmark and Larry Irving and a whole bunch of other people that I haven't met and would like to. But I'm told that this is going to be recorded. So I will promise you I'm going to go listen to the whole shebang once I get a chance. So let me turn to the things that are on my mind right now, and surely on everyone else's. COVID-19 has really exposed some serious fissures in our social, economic, and technological worlds. And I believe that we should take advantage of the spotlight that this pandemic has provided us, despite all of the horrible things that have happened, the lost lives and illnesses and the economic stress and everything else. Don't let a crisis go to waste. Let's take advantage of what we are seeing and learning from this experience, and let's turn it to utility. So as an example of the kind of things that I believe the COVID-19 pandemic has exposed is the way in which healthcare is undertaken. I don't know about the rest of you, but I would call my doctor to try to make an appointment, and he said, don't come into the office because we don't have adequate protection. I'm happy to do a video chat with you. And I'm sitting here thinking, what kind of medicine is that? I mean, you didn't get my blood pressure and my temperature and my pulse and all the other things that you normally expect from an office visit, which led me to conclude that there is a big opportunity in developing what we'll call the Internet of Medical Things. Everybody's heard of IoT, Internet of Things, but the Internet of Medical Things looks like a big opportunity, creating devices that will allow people to obtain a kind of remote office visit by having at least measurement of these various important parameters. And at some point, perhaps we even might get even more elaborate diagnostic capability, including things like being able to test for COVID and have an electronic ability to transmit that data back to the doctor. Just like we could imagine having heart rate mechanisms on your watch as an example. So there are big opportunities, I think, in healthcare that are opening up, our eyes are opening up to opportunity because of that. I think the other thing, which is pretty obvious, is what we're doing right this moment, and that's an alternative to travel. And although I personally much prefer to be up there in New York with you, this is not a bad substitute. And I have to admit that these days, since I've been in my basement office, which is where I am right now for the last 7 months, I've been able to travel to Australia and on the same day and then be home in time for dinner. And of course, the ability of the internet to sustain this kind of two-way high bandwidth communication is frankly quite surprising. I suppose as we think about the amount of streaming video that was becoming so popular over the last 5 to 10 years, that this increase in capacity worked in both directions. So we're all taking advantage of this astonishing increase in capacity that the internet has managed to achieve. I want to, I don't have time to go through everything here, but I want to emphasize how important it is for us to look at the social and economic impact that the COVID-19 has highlighted, and also, I think, the side effects of social media. Now, the thing that you heard from both of our students is the value of social media, Instagram, for example, in drawing attention to themselves and their work and their businesses. But I think everyone on this call would also appreciate that that same platform, not just Instagram, but all the various social media, can be and has been seriously abused. The propagation of misinformation, disinformation, and divisive discourse has been obvious. And we are going to have to do something about that if we don't want to lose the value that those media have provided to us to connect people together, to discover each other and common interests. But at the same time, we have to find ways of making sure that these don't become serious detriments to our social stability. That is not an easy challenge, and it is not solvable purely by technology. I'd like to argue that some wetware up here might help. Critical thinking would be very useful. I mean, think about, where did this stuff come from? Is there any corroborating evidence for the assertions that are being made? Is someone trying to convince me of something for some purpose for which I might not agree? There are just a variety of rationales for wanting to cope with and essentially undermine the harmful effects of some of these online environments. That doesn't even get to the other big problem, which is malware and the propagation of ransomware and all the other kinds of interferences that happen. And I can hear somebody thinking, why the hell didn't you make a more secure system when you designed this 40 years ago? And the answer is, we didn't have the technology available to do as good a job of it as we can now. And so there are technologies available, and we can improve the implementation of them. But we also need to encourage better behavior by the people that use the system. I mean, a lot of this is, of the problems you see are choices that humans make that are not necessarily in your best interest. So I want to move over to an observation about software, because I will bet that a great many people who are thinking about what to do right now and are kind of forced into thinking, how do I do this online, will recognize that software is an endless frontier.
Right.
I mean, there isn't anything that you can't do with software as long as you can figure out how to program it. You can't figure out how to program it, it's a different problem. But the point here is that there is just an infinite set of opportunities here. And if you can't program, it's okay. Find somebody else who can, and then get your idea in place. And that's a big opportunity for lots of people. However, there is also a big issue here, and I draw your attention to it because I believe it deserves a substantial amount of research, and that is that software is not perfect. It has bugs. What are bugs? Bugs are mostly mistakes that programmers make. And I know I used to make a living writing software, and I have a little dent in my forehead from the millions of times when I've done, how can I do such a dumbass thing? So we have bugs in the software, and they get exploited by people who don't have your best interest at heart. Yeah. We need to find ways of avoiding the mistakes. We need better software development environments. We need tools that will help us discover what those problems are. And I challenge the research community, the computer science community, to give us much better tools. Not only that, but even after we release software, there are going to be times when we have to fix the bugs that we found. And that means that if somebody is selling you a box full of software, the first question you should ask is, if there's a bug, can you fix it remotely? Can you fix it after I've started to use and rely on this thing? So we are increasingly reliant on software doing what it's supposed to do. And we need to work very hard to make sure that when it doesn't do what it's supposed to do, we can fix it. So that's sort of the broad brush observation about software. We are becoming very dependent on it. Yes. Or we need to be very thoughtful about that dependency and protecting ourselves and others. The last point I wanted to make is about telecommunication, we're using right now optical fiber, radio, and Wi-Fi, and a variety of other things. There may even be some people who are joining us by satellite links. But I just wanted to draw your attention to some additional new technologies that are coming along. One of them is from a company called Loon, which is one of the Alphabet companies, sister of Google. It's balloons at 65,000 feet up in the stratosphere, delivering LTE, 4G, and someday 5G possibilities. And those things are literally free-flying balloons that are in literally low orbit, very low Earth orbit, and they keep them aligned based on the winds that are blowing up at that altitude. Just recently, just a week and a half ago, another thing called Haxmobile was tested. This is an airplane that's solar-powered. It's like a 250-foot wingspan. It takes a few hours for it to get up to 65,000 feet, which is where it flies. And again, using balloon-based radio systems, we tested it with a four-way video conference call with Tokyo and London and Washington, D.C., and San Francisco, all being connected with high res like you're seeing right this moment. So we're starting to see some pretty interesting atmospheric level communications technologies coming along. And then, of course, there's Elon Musk and others who are putting satellites in low Earth orbit. The Starlink system, if it is actually installed at full capacity, will have 24,000 satellites in orbit up there.
Wow.
That means that there won't be any square inch of the Earth that can't be reached by internet. And that means that getting access to the internet is inescapable. It's going to be there. Now, it still remains to be seen what the performance of the system is, what the costs are. And that raises one last point I wanted to make generally about internet access. My job at Google as the chief internet evangelist is to try to get more people connected to the internet all around the world. And what we're discovering is there are technology limitations, there are cost limitations, there are technical challenges, atmospheric and local conditions that get in the way of various alternative choices depending on the frequencies that you're using. So we have a ways to go to get everybody up and running. But these new technologies will help, assuming that they deliver on their promise. So I can tell you that for the rest of the day, just looking at the program, if you don't come out of the end of this day with bursting with ideas for things to do, I'll be very surprised. I can't wait to see the videos. I thank you so much, Clayton, for letting me take part in this at the beginning of the day. And believe me, I want to wish the Silicon Harlem every possible success. This is just so good to see. So keep at it. We're behind you.
Thank you so much. And let me just quickly just say there's so much conversation going on around your remarks, and I hope you do look at that because there's just so many different ideas that have come out of just from what you shared with us. And when I talked with Merlin, he reflected on a cab ride that you had with him. So I don't know if you remember that, but that was fun to hear. So just a big thank you from us. I hope we get to do this again, Vint Cerf, because you threw out a lot of things that we now have to really sort of break down on our side. Internet access is our number one thing, but I thank you again for sharing your expertise and just being a part of this. I appreciate it. Thank you so much.
You're very welcome. Good luck to everybody. I'll see you on the net.
You got it. All right.